Welcome everyone to our City Council meeting for Monday, October the 10th. If we could have roll call to establish quorum, please, ma'am.
David Mitchell.
Here.
Christy Kendrick.
Yes.
James DeVito.
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Terry McClung.
Here.
Vicky Schneider.
Yo.
We have 6.
All right. If we could stand and pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I get a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
We have Michael Mosley is here with Municipal League, and I'd like to see if we can move him up to first order of new business.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All right. And also, I've got another issue that we can put on at the end of the new business, which is the talking about the new judge's salary.
What you said, I'll make that motion.
We got a
Second.
new, yeah. And anybody else have anything? If not, all those in favor of the agenda being amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. Get approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any additions, corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved. We've got cemetery position that's vacant. Anybody out there in TV land would like to come in be on the cemetery commission? We've got one position there. Also have a position for the hospital. So we would appreciate you coming in and submitting your application if you're interested on that. Do we have any public comments? All right. Well, that puts us right up to our first order of new business, is a Morris settlement with Michael Mosley. Get a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
All right. You can come up and give us a rundown on why you're here.
Hey folks, I'm Mike Mosley. I'm your attorney from the Arkansas Municipal League, and I'm defending this lawsuit on behalf of the city who's been sued by plaintiff Morris. This is an employment, what this is a retaliation lawsuit, a First Amendment retaliation lawsuit. Mr. Morris alleges that he was the head of Local 4708 Union branch, and that because of that, former Chief Aides fired him. We deny that, and I've been up here 3 or 4 times looking at evidence, speaking with witnesses, and I am perfectly satisfied that this case is defensible, and we should continue to defend it. However, in any case, any case has got some nuisance value to it because of city employee time, taking depositions, and more, trial, and if necessary. So, in that regard, I had a conversation with opposing counsel, who are 2 attorneys. 2 of them are attorneys from Washington, D.C., and in that regard, we got a settlement offer that I have a duty, ethically, to convey to you. Just because I have a duty to convey it to you does not mean that I recommend that you accept it, counter-offer it, or do anything. And I tried to convey that via a letter. So let me just tell you what the offer is first, and then if you guys want to do something, somebody can make a motion and to perhaps make a counteroffer, or to do nothing. You don't have to make any motion at all, and I can just leave. Mr. Morris wants back pay in the amount of $12,583.39, reinstatement with the Eureka Springs Fire Department to the position of captain, with corresponding pay rate and benefits of all other captains, and restoration of sick leave balance, compensatory damages in the amount of $20,000 for alleged emotional and mental anguish he alleges he suffered as a result of his termination, $45,000 in fees and costs, and they claim that at this point, their current fees and costs currently total $48,821.26. We haven't taken depositions yet. I filed an answer, and we did some written discovery. Somehow, they claim they've got $50,000 in attorney's fees. Expungement of all personnel files regarding any reference to disciplinary actions taken by defendants against Mr. Morris, but including but not limited to October the 2nd termination and any investigation related thereto. I'll never recommend a client do that, but it's a public record. I don't think there is such a thing as expungement of a public record, in my opinion, unless it's for a juvenile, for instance, in a criminal case. But certainly, an employment file, I would never recommend you do that. A provision in the settlement agreement saying will not discriminate or retaliate against employees for exercising their rights that belong to and support a labor organization. We deny that we did that in the first place. So that's wholly unnecessary. And then we would submit a proposed order to the court. It's not my purpose to come here and bash opposing counsel or bash the plaintiff or say anything. It just doesn't matter. My advice is that this is not an offer you should accept. And I don't think, frankly, a nuisance offer as a counteroffer would get anywhere. But that said, if you want my advice what a nuisance offer would be, it'd be between $3,000 and $5,000, period. That's it. And the case would be dismissed. I think that a reasonable person in your shoes would conclude, like I have, that they wouldn't accept that. Would they come down off of their offer? Yeah, probably. They would go back and forth. My estimation is what they're asking for here is everything they could possibly get if they want. And I would never settle for that. In order to make offers, in my opinion, you should discount your things. And a discount of, there's really no more to say than that. I don't want to get into where I'm saying anything derogatory against anyone. The bottom line is you have an offer. You are the entity for the city of Eureka Springs that has control of the purse strings, the money. And in that regard, only you can vote to approve an offer that would constitute, that would require you to pay the city to pay money, or to do a counteroffer, or you don't have to do anything. Administrative things like this personnel file might be something that I can work out with the mayor. Again, that's not my recommendation. This offer is not my recommendation. I don't have a recommendation today. Okay? But now you understand what's going on. So let me just tell you what's going on with the lawsuit, Councilman Thomas, just so you know. It's not too old. Well, you sent an email regarding, it's irrelevant. The bottom line is you wanted information about the lawsuit. You are entitled to that. You're one of my clients. You're an agent of one of my clients. The lawsuit has been answered. That means they filed a complaint making allegations. We denied the wrongdoing that was alleged against us, and we filed an answer. Thereafter, I sent 3 sets of written questions to them, which in part they've objected to, in part they've answered. I can follow up on those objections if I think it's appropriate. And they've done written discovery of us. In that regard, I came up here, collected documents from Ms. Stryker, collected documents from the fire department, and gave them documents, including a video of the termination itself. Which is, in my opinion, contains very strong evidence that no retaliation occurred whatsoever. So, what's next? Depositions. Depositions, if you're not aware, are where I get to take live testimony under oath of someone. Are you an attorney?
No, Ann and I had a conversation
Okay.
about something different today, but it was the same kind of situation.
In any event, depositions are where I get to take their testimony under oath in a not in a court setting, in a non-court setting, with a court reporter. Maybe here. Maybe I take them right here. Okay, and that's going to occur next. Without knowing what everybody says under oath, meaning former Chief Aids, Chief Samick, Mr. Morris, and things like that, I don't see how, unless it's a nuisance idea of settlement just to prevent the continued cost of litigation, you can make an educated decision regarding any settlement right now. Okay? After that, I will file, if appropriate, what's known as a motion for summary judgment. That is, Judge, here's all the evidence. The case ought to be dismissed. If that is granted, the case is then dismissed, short of trial, and the case is over. They have the right to appeal. If it's not, the case goes to trial. In that event, it will go to trial in Fayetteville Division. I'm not sure if Eureka Springs always went to Fayetteville Division 10, but you would know.
We are part of Harrison.
Harrison's been closed, so
Yes.
yeah. So we'll go to Fayetteville Division and defend the lawsuit there in trial. And I'm more than willing and ready to defend this lawsuit based on the evidence that I have and the documents that I have right now, all the way through trial, appeal, and to the end of time. That's my job. So that's the status of the case. Do you have any questions?
I would like to discuss my email with you because I'm not sure you got the point of it, but I'd rather do it. It has no real relationship to this particular case.
Okay. Well, it said that you'd received an email from an AML attorney about a settlement offer, I thought. But maybe...
I received an email from you.
Correct. Okay. So you did receive that email?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. If anybody wants to discuss this further, I can discuss things that will not come before you on a vote because you potentially are witnesses and are my clients, arguably outside of a public meeting setting. But again, you are a public body. And in that regard, you've got to meet under the Freedom of Information Act in a public setting with the press here in an open meeting. And that's why I'm here talking about this. But if you have questions, that might relate to you being a witness or things like that,
No.
something that might not come up as on a vote here before the council, sure, we can talk about those, and I'll give you my cell phone for that purpose.
Okay.
Okay?
I
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like to make a motion that we do not accept opponent's offer.
I'll second that.
All right, everybody understand the motion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Was that, I didn't hear your vote, Bob.
Oh, I agreed.
Okay.
May I be excused, please?
If the mayor will
You know what? You may want to ask me about that other law, what you need to do to get the other lawsuit to the AML if you'd like. You're happy to. I'm happy to.
While we've got him here, I think you had the next process we got served. Some of us got served on another issue that was a firing issue by Bruce Levine. Tim hadn't even seen the law. He'd seen it by.
I looked it up online on
Yeah.
the federal court's website, and I've read the complaint there, not the exhibits and all the other attachments yet.
He filed a case against us with the federal for the EEOC, and that was denied and said he had no claims. So after that was denied on his part, he then hired a couple of attorneys in Little Rock, and they have since filed a lawsuit naming all of us plus the Parks Commission as defendants. Some of us have received that in the mail, some of us haven't yet. And since that's a federal case, he filed it in federal court, we'll have Tim go ahead and send that down to Municipal League for their review to see if they will accept it. Because they will normally represent us in federal cases, unless something screwy going on.
Well, they'll represent you in state cases too, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. It's just the kind of case is the issue.
Okay. So anyway,
The
so that's
issue.
kind of where we are right now. The plan is for us to send this down to Municipal League for their review.
May I say one thing to
Sure.
just to help you guys? First of all, what it sounds like is they made an EEOC complaint with the Equal Opportunity Commission down in either Little Rock or up here. The EEOC
Little Rock.
routinely denies those, but they issue what are called notice of suit rights, meaning they can sue. And then within a given time, they have to sue. That sounds like what's occurred here. I've just barely looked at the complaint. The Municipal League Defense Program does defend terminations. I can't tell you whether there will be monetary coverage or not if you submit it to the League. But if you're going to submit it to the League, do so immediately. Get it to Jamie Adams or Mark Hayes, and I can give you Mark's number is 978-6102. You got it.
Yeah.
Get it to him ASAP because there is a limited amount of time you have to respond, to file an answer or a motion to dismiss. So if you haven't checked your mail, folks, please check your mail ASAP. Get it to the mayor. Let him know when you were served. And that's it. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, since I got kind of singled out here,
No, I didn't mean to single you out.
well, I just would like to, because I can't communicate to my fellow council members what my email was about privately, but basically, I received notice of both of these suits on Saturday morning, and I wrote an email and said, I do not understand how this could have reached this point without anyone on council, at least myself having heard anything about it. I wasn't asking about the case. I wasn't asking about depositions. I'm asking about how a city council operates. How could we have gotten to this point without me, at least? I don't know what other information other people on council have gotten. How could we reach this point without council knowing anything about this?
Yeah, I couldn't possibly know the answer to that.
Pardon? Well, my question to you was: is that your advice that things operate like that, or is that the way most city councils operate, that we don't know what's going on until it reaches this point?
Respectfully, that presupposes that you don't know what's going on.
I
You're
don't.
stating you do not know what's going on.
I do not know what's going on.
I think now you do.
Yes.
So in that regard, as long as at some point you know what's going on, and as long as you haven't defaulted, that is, somebody is making sure that the city is answered, I don't see anything wrong with it. No.
Well, that's not the way I operate, so.
Okay, so your point is irregardless of what I say, you have a problem with it.
No, we have a difference of opinion. Is that okay?
Of course.
All right.
Yeah, my point is it was an email was sent to suggesting that you were left in the dark. I thought you meant with respect to the Morris lawsuit. That's why I'm here, is to explain to you what's going on in the Morris lawsuit.
I don't really know how much to say about a particular case, but if somebody's gone to this agency and they've gone to that agency and they've gone to this agency and they've had meetings here, and we have never been informed of it at all. I'm sure I would hope our mayor was informed of the fact that there was a case down at the EEO office.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know anything about that case. I do know about Morris, and I do know that when it was filed, the mayor and I met almost immediately.
Right.
Okay, so that I could prepare an answer, and I met with the former chief immediately,
right,
so I could prepare an answer. That's what I can tell you about that case. I can't tell you with respect to that, and you have to ask your fellow folks about that. I don't know.
Well, that's all I was asking was,
Fair enough.
what should a council person expect to know in terms of what's going on?
James?
In my opinion, these are administrative functions, and at the appropriate time, we as council will be notified, and we have been notified as per the municipal league's attorney, and I feel that's the appropriate course of action. I feel these are the sanctity of the administrative arm of city government, and I feel it's functioning appropriately.
Well, I feel that you have a right to your opinion, but
I stated
we're
it.
going to have to, if, and I
All
said,
right, let's come on. We're kind of dealing with.
Okay.
I can talk to you about this later, but this is an administrative. I keep the council informed of when it comes to be what's happening. There isn't anything on the EEOC that's being filed. There's nothing anybody could do about it until they made whatever they were going to do, and they dismissed it, so that there wasn't anything to tell you. It was irrelevant. It was an administrative duties of hiring and firing. Now then, he's filed a lawsuit. Now you guys are involved. Municipal League will be involved. You'll be kept abreast of that. Anytime we never try to settle something when somebody gets fired, they always say, I'm going to sue you, I'm going to take it to such and such. That's their prerogative. We don't say, will you take X amount of money not to sue us? That's not the way the city operates.
I don't blame you for that.
So they file an EEOC, equal opportunity, claiming he was discriminated against. They said he wasn't, so now he's filed a lawsuit. And that's where we are. Anyway, any other questions for Mr. Mosley?
Bye.
Pardon?
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. You may be excused, sir.
Safe travels. That's what you asked for. Goodbye.
All right. Next order of business. Update on CAPC plans. Get a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second. Do we have somebody here from...
Well,
what?
Unless
James?
somebody's sitting outside.
Mike called me to ask if I would present.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. James, go for it.
But with Damon and you, Susan, here, please feel free to assist. at any time. And basically, what I'm just going to do is read into the record this document presented by the CAPC to the City Council. The request has been made by the City Council, and the CAPC has been asked by the City Council to create a 10-year plan for the historical Eureka Springs Auditorium to coincide with the 10-year 1/4% proposed tax levy that will be voted on at the next election in November. The request is twofold. Due to the upcoming November 2016, in which the City Council has placed a 1% tax increase on the ballot to cover the impending water and sewer infrastructure improvements, a portion of which will provide a tax revenue stream for the historic auditorium, which from this point of the document on will be simply called the OD. Number one, 75% of the 1% sales tax increase will cover water and sewer infrastructure improvements. Item 2, 25% of the 1 cent sales tax increase will provide a tax revenue stream for the auditorium. And let me clarify that none of this will be administered by the CAPC. This goes to the auditorium. It does not go to the CAPC. The facts. Currently, the CAPC and the City of Eureka Springs share costs associated with the OD, with the CAPC assigned primary responsibility for the management activities of the facility. Auditorium disbursements were the following for each organization. CAPC, $109,000 in 2015. Year-to-date, as of August 2016, $71,257. The City of Eureka Springs, in 2015, $52,052. Year-to-date, $29,100. Major repairs within the last 5 years, $100,000 to a new heating and air conditioning system. In 2015, total disbursements to the auditorium were $161,052. Year-to-date disbursements to the auditorium have been $100,357. Auditorium revenue congruent with the CAPC and city tax-generated disbursements were the following. Number one, the auditorium in 2015, $49,000. Year-to-date, $29,147. If the proposed tax passes, the City of Eureka Springs has projected a tax revenue stream for the auditorium of approximately $275,000 based on the data from the City Budget Director. An independent citizen-led commission will be formed to manage, maintain, operate, and program the facility. Fixed overhead costs currently associated with the OD based on the 2015 numbers will be approximately $165,000 per year. Based on projections from the City Budget Director, the new citizen-led auditorium commission will be left with approximately $110,000 in working capital to maintain, hire additional staff, and organize a volunteer force to operate and program the facility. If the proposed tax does not pass, fixed overhead costs currently associated with the OD will be approximately $165,000 per year. CAPC and the City of Eureka Springs will continue to share costs associated with the OD per their attached 2002 agreement, with the CAPC assigned primary responsibility for management of activities at the facility. What's next? The CAPC auditorium proposal. Financial support. Should the proposed tax passes, management of the OD will be transferred from the CAPC to an independent citizen-led commission appointed by the City of Eureka Springs and made up exclusively of qualified citizens from the community. The CAPC shall provide financial support to the OD initially in the amount of $110,000 annually for the first 3 years. The CAPC shall provide financial support to the auditorium in years 4 through 6 in the amount of $55,000 based on the following performance metric. And that metric being auditorium generated revenue equal to or exceeding 50% of year 3 of the third year of CAPC annual funding. As the proposed 1/4% tax levy will end at the end of 10 years, the CAPC will require the OD to be self-sustaining by years 7 to 10 under the leadership of the OD Commission and will no longer be eligible for further CAPC financial support. Additional requirements. The CAPC will offer support and assistance during the transition, i.e., non-financial administrative consultation. The Auditorium Commission shall hire a full-time OD director who will be responsible for managing all aspects of the facility. A job description and salary range will be established for the OD director position to ensure adequate experience and qualifications for the goals assigned. Should the proposed tax pass, a non-salaried temporary interim director could be named, but expediency should be a priority in hiring a director that meets the necessary requirements outlined in the job description. The OD Commission will submit funding requests during years 1 through 6 to the CAPC as needed, but can only use CAPC for events and acts held in the OD. It is anticipated that with the goal of self-sustainability, a prescribed reduced amount of funding would be expected by the end of year 3. The Audit Commission shall meet specific CAPC performance metrics in order to receive annual funding for years 1 to 6. See above financial requirements. Additional quantitative metrics will be established by the CAPC. The CAPC will continue to market and advertise the audit on behalf of the Audit Commission. This will be ongoing. The Audit Director shall present to the CAPC Director and CAPC Commission events, acts, marketing, and advertising efforts in the audit. This will be ongoing monthly. The Audit Director shall attend all CAPC meetings and workshops for informational purposes. Likewise, the CAPC Director and CAPC Commission Chair shall attend all audit meetings and workshops for informational purposes. The Audit Commission shall submit to the CAPC its annual financials per requirements of financial funding during years 1 through 6 within 3 months of the beginning of each year. And finally, a parking facility. The CAPC shall develop a plan for a long-term parking facility in downtown Eureka Springs to assist the audit and downtown parking limitations. Agreement stage. Should the tax pass, a formal agreement will be created, whereas all parties shall have legal representation of their choice. Efforts should be made to have a legal representative specializing in contract law to prepare the document, preferably pro bono or partially pro bono. It is anticipated that the city legal consultant will review but not write the contract. A formal city ordinance declaring an auditorium commission shall be composed with all parties agreeing to its content. The formal agreement shall be signed by all members of the city council, CAPC Commission, and Mayor of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Just a little background. I put a document I prepared. No, it's not a document. It's something I worked up with city sales revenues versus CAPC revenues from 1998 until 2015. And I think one of the major reasons we're adding a parking facility to the proposed agreement is that we feel at this point in time, and if you look at the graph going back to 1998 to 2012, the city basically was doing nothing. We were basically dead in the water. We had nominal increases of 1 to 2%, followed by decreases of 2 to 3%. Since 2012, with the hiring of Mike Maloney, you can see the graph has a noted upswing. The first year Mike was on the commission, we had over an 11% increase. Year-to-date, the following year was 3% over that 11% increase. The following year was 7% over those 2 years. And this year I'm pleased to announce that we're approximately 11% over last year's numbers through the end of August. So we felt as we were moving out of management of the auditorium and reducing our cash flow into the auditorium by year 3, and given the fact that we're on an upswing and we have gone out of this almost over 12 years of basically no growth or negative growth, that this was the appropriate time to bring up the issue of the number one complaint against the city of Eureka Springs, and something that we've been discussing since 1972 is a parking facility for the auditorium. For it to be a viable entity, it's going to have parking. This will be funded solely by CAPC revenue. There will be no tax increase. There will be no encumbrance to the residents of the community. The revenue shortfalls that the garage might have would be backed by the CAPC revenue stream. We went through this process a number of years ago and never pulled the trigger on it, but the only thing that's changed is the cost of the garage has gone up. So any questions, and I'll Susan Damon or myself be more than happy to answer.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to ask Susan and or Damon personally, but I'll start with Susan. Would you like to add anything to that, please, ma'am?
No, and you'll see on the document itself. Oh, sorry. I really don't. I don't have any extra comments to make. You'll see on the document itself it is a draft, so there are still probably a few points that we may want to discuss, but at the same time, the request was that it was brought to City Council as a presentation. So I would say it is probably, 98% where it needs to be at this point, as far as everybody agreeing and going over the details. So those are the facts that we have at this point.
Well, it was asked to come to City Council so that it could be shared with the public based
True.
on the fact of the 1% tax and the feedback from the public who are voting on this 1% tax starting in probably, a couple weeks?
Correct.
As far as early voting. And because that issue was taking a tremendous amount of time and gaining steam out there to the point that people were coming up with potential alternative ideas of coming back and potentially having a petition to look at reducing the CAPC tax, etc. So it obviously was getting some negativity, and it wasn't just a few individuals, obviously. It had much more negativity. So it's nice to see this. It's nice to have it read into the record. And you're correct, it probably does need further review and some tightening up. Thank you.
Okay.
Mickey?
James, under additional requirements, I don't see anything clear in regards to where the various directors and stuff are supposed to be going to these two meetings. Is that forever or for the first 10 years or what?
Well, I would hope that it'd be a forever thing.
Okay. And then my second question in regards to the parking garage, which I've always been behind that. I'm assuming when there was not an auditorium event going on, this parking garage would be available for tourism.
It would,
or locals, whatever.
It would be a city-owned parking facility.
Okay.
And I understand that we're making over $220,000 per year with the meters that we have right now. Once a bond issue on a facility like that would be paid off, it would be a significant cash flow for the city.
It would definitely be a huge cash flow.
And new restrooms and things like that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And as I recall reading the statute and the ordinance for the CAPC, you can work on bonding and on these structures. It is under the jurisdiction of the CAPC, so this is not overreach in any way by the CAPC, and it is actually really stepping up to the plate. And that's good.
It's actually one of the things that's allowed under the statewide legislation for the CAPC, because they understand that a vibrant growth in the business community requires things like parking.
Yeah.
And particularly in our situation where we have a 950-seat auditorium with no parking. So if we can accomplish this goal, it does enhance the ability of the auditorium to draw outside promoters who would be then willing to risk their money on putting on shows in the auditorium. So that's kind of the ultimate goal here, is to provide the parking that the auditorium needs, but also to provide the parking that the city of Eureka Springs needs, because our ability to grow is definitely capped off by our ability to put people in the downtown area. And unfortunately, we do spend money for advertising and have people come to have a less than pleasant experience. And that to me, is one of the greatest travesties that could happen.
I tell my guests to park up there and walk down. I'm serious. I just tell them to walk down. It's easier. Don't
It's
even
hard
fight
to
it.
walk back up, though. You don't tell them about it.
Well, they feed the hospital money that way, coming back. But no, and that's appreciated that you took the time to explain that, because I think the public needs to understand the CAPC on that issue is really stepping up to the plate. That's big.
Well, it's the way it should be. As I mentioned, that if we can free up some of our commitments to the auditorium, and if we continue on this same path that we're going of generating a significant revenue each year over each year. Let me add one other thing, that this document, is this available at City Hall for council yet? Obviously not. This is the report from the Johansson Group. We employed a firm in Fayetteville to do an analysis of the CAPC, and I'm happy to report that the conclusions with our 5-member staff, this group found them to be competent, capable, and worked well together. There are some deficiencies that are mentioned in this report, and as soon as we can get copies, they can be dispersed to all of the council people. It's a significant look at the CAPC, but I'm happy to report that the main structure has been okayed by this outside authority. Yes, there are a few events and festivals and things like that they found some deficiencies in, and some other ancillary items. But I think the big picture item was the overview of the staff and how they function, and are they capable and competent and efficient, and that was the finding of the Johansson Group.
Yes, sir.
And just to follow up to that, so I would assume, which I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to at this point, that the CAPC will then take that study and actually develop objectives and short and long-term goals and work on each one of the shortcomings that they have identified over the next year.
Without a doubt. And there is
so it's not going to be
a meeting coming up on this presentation on October 29th.
Okay. So
where we will discuss this. I mean, I'm just kind of just letting the cat out of the bag here, but we have an upcoming meeting.
Nobody out there in TV land that historically knows that sometimes studies come and they don't get used. That's not what's going to happen with this one. They can just put it to rest.
No, in my knowledge, this is actually the first time the CAPC has done anything
I'm
like
talking about
this.
other studies in the city. Let's be.
Let's kind of get back to the auditorium.
Yeah. It is. It came off the auditorium. It was just a comment that was made not to report history. That's all.
Okay.
May I ask if that report is available in electronic form, perhaps on the CAPC website?
No, I don't think the Johansson report. I don't think it's available yet.
It would be great if it could be made available on your website in electronic form.
I hope, like the other studies that are available electronically, that this will be digitized.
Hey, James, on this financial support page, you read something different from what's written on my copy. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, like I said, this was a draft, and we're in the process of finalizing it.
Okay.
And that was some of my notations.
What you read is the more current.
Well, it's more current as to my reading.
As to your what now? I'm sorry.
As to my reading, I took the liberties of changing that from local business leaders to qualified citizens from the community.
Right, okay.
I felt in the aspect of the CAPC, yes, it should be local business leaders, but I felt in the aspect of the auditorium that it should be qualified citizens from the community.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Bob. Because what I was reading in financial support, with the exception of it, is that what you're talking about? The qualified leaders? Oh, I thought you were talking about financial.
No. Okay. Line 3 under the financial support. We hadn't finalized with all of the other commissioners, so I took the liberty of myself just from my extensive.
If I can, I also ad-lib a little bit here, and I know the CAPC and Susan went and got a lot of documents from our office to see what was going on with the odd. Part of this proposed tax, too, if it passes, we have at one time over $500,000 worth of needed improvements on that building. Everything from roofing to copings to tuck pointing to interior work. We've done some. The HVAC we've taken care of. We've taken care of some of the coping, but we still have a lot more work to go do on the building. My recommendation with this passes and comes before the council for their budget is for us to take a portion of that tax and put it back into a reserve so we can use that for maintenance, building maintenance, roughly $50,000 to $75,000. So we can apply also for grants. We applied, and I mentioned this once before, we had a $75,000 estimate just for tuck pointing the top 15 to 20 feet of the fly area of the auditorium. The fly is the top part, the taller part of the auditorium as you look at the outside.
It's above the roof line?
Above the roof line, above the lower roof line.
Right.
On three sides, it was $70,000, $80,000. If we had to match that, I don't know where, we would probably come on our knees to the CAPC to come up with a $30,000 match to fix that, in which, we don't even have the money to match grants for that building right now, and that's part of where this tax money is going to go for. The other thing that makes me exciting is making the basement usable. That money can go in and use and put in. And once before we applied for grants to put an elevator in, so we'd have access to the basement, so we can utilize that basement, fix that up, and clean it up, and make it usable for different functions that come in there. Right now, a lot of places won't use it because you have to go down the stairs to get to it, and it's just not real feasible. But there is plans where we put an elevator back in the back corner along First Street. So some of this money would be going for that to make the basement more usable also. Yes, sir.
I'm confused now a little bit because what you're saying I like. I understand setting it back, but if I read the financial support here, they haven't taken what you're saying into consideration in what's here. And if the tax even is approved, I think it came from our attorney that they probably wouldn't start having any money in the coffers until the middle of 17 anyway. And then if we start taking 50 to 75, which makes total sense for repairs or so, that changes this.
I'm not saying we'd do that immediately. I'm just saying that's part of the long-term plan to use that money as it comes in. Obviously, we're not going to have the total tax money available all at once.
True. No, we absolutely wouldn't, but I still think that they might need to think about that with the financials. It's not matching.
Let me just clear this up just a little bit. The mayor's talking about the Auditorium Commission overseeing the 0.25% tax, which is totally their purview. The A&P has no authority to dictate to them how they spend that money, nor do they want to be involved in that. Our responsibility will be to provide the advertising and promotional support to whatever the auditorium does. If they want to use that money for tuck pointing and all of that other stuff, we're just talking about the city's commitment vis-a-vis like utilities and stuff like that, and the present commitment by the A&P of about $110,000, which adds up to that $165,000. That $275,000 proposed income from the tax will be up to the Auditorium Commission on how they ensure. Well, maintenance will be a large portion of it.
I didn't catch that in some of the wording, but it's not time to argue it here because it's obviously 98% correct, but something seems to be off. Thank you.
Let me just add, and I apologize, but Susan was responsible for bringing a lot of this information. I'm sorry, I neglected to mention that in my presentation, and without her help, we probably never would have got here.
And of course, a lot of this too, if the tax passes, we'll have a budget set up that will be approved by the City Council for the Auditorium Commission too.
Yeah.
So similar to what we've got for a lot of our other commissions.
And I liked our finance director's way of handling in the separate line items and all that he brought up for accuracy and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It just obviously there's a few little things to work on.
I just wanted the public to recognize, and also the council, that part of this tax money is not going just for operation, but it's going back into the maintenance and reserves for future maintenance through there. But I want to thank the CAPC and Susan and everybody for preparing this. It's a good start. It's a good plan that I think we need. So, any other questions or comments? If not, let's go on and go to the Ordinance 2248, real and personal property tax. James?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2248 on its third reading by title only.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call, sorry.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Kendrick?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yep.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
6-0. Ordinance number 2248, an ordinance levying a tax on all real and personal property in the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Move to approve ordinance number 2248 on its third reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Get a roll call on that.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Kendrick?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Next item is discussion of appropriations for Judge Ramsey's salary. Can motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
We have, I think in your packet, this was given to me in the middle of the week, and I apologize for not getting it to you sooner. But it's, we got it from the Sandra Moss from the Administration of Justice Fund. We have a new judge that's going to be part of Eureka Springs and Huntsville. And the judgeship also, I guess, Green Forest and Berryville.
Yes.
And we have basically trying to, this letter, what we've got, and I think I put it in your packet, is talking about how to split up the salary of that new judgeship. Currently, we are paying half of the judge's salary and the county's paying half. Under this new judge, we'll be splitting his salary up into basically 7 portions. The county will take 2 portions, which is kind of what they're doing now. City of Eureka Springs will take 1. City of Huntsville will take 1. Madison County will take 1. Green Forest will take 1. So dividing that 7 shares into his salary basically comes up being approximately $8,378, which is less than what we're paying right now. We're paying a little over $11,000 for his salary. So this is going to save us a couple of $1,000s on there. We have to agree to this by the end of October 31st. So we can, this just bring it up for your thoughts and discussion at this point in time. Terry?
Does it require an ordinance?
Probably a resolution,
Just a resolution?
I would think. Tim, what do you think? Or just a motion, and
Probably should be
Because-
done by resolution.
because eventually it's going to end up in our budget.
Yeah.
Then what I'd like to do is go ahead and propose that our council have a resolution prepared for our next meeting, so that way we'll have it done within the correct time frame.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, got a second. Got any further discussion? Everybody understand what we're doing? All right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will get a resolution proposed and given up to you at our next deal. All right, that puts us up to our unfinished business. A date for workshops on jurisdiction of the parks, talking about the lands, workshop on the lands and stuff. Get a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I'm not sure any thoughts on that, how we want to do this? You want to meet an hour before, where we've got budgets, before our next workshop. You want to meet next Monday? Five o'clock? James, I don't know how that fits yours.
There goes dinner, but go for
Yeah.
Let's see, that'd be the 14th,
17.
17th, sorry. Oops. I wonder, I was a month ahead of myself.
Let's see.
Meet at 5 o'clock next Monday, 17th,
For 1 hour.
for 1 hour.
Okay. Just want an end too.
Yep, okay. Is that good?
Why not?
All right.
What's the date again, please?
17th, 5 to 6. Okay. All right. That brings us up to our next item. Before you, I've got get a motion to discuss
So
food
moved.
trucks.
So moved.
I already so moved it. You can second.
Okay.
Second.
There's an ordinance in your packet. We can do this one of two ways. We can either have a workshop and discuss it, or we can just talk about it at the next council meeting. It's up to the council.
Can we do a little talking now and then set up a workshop, since this has been a year and a half?
Beg your
now?
pardon?
Can we do a little talking now and then set up a workshop?
Sure. Okay.
Under section 6 on the second page, there's absolutely no forfeit time for the property owner, although there is a forfeit time for the food truck people. Someone who doesn't want to have food trucks around could go ahead and win the lottery and then say, too bad. They need a forfeit time also to make it fair and square. And section 10, we've been through this 5 billion times. We're going to do 5 billion and one. You cannot sit there and say it's got to be at least 100 feet away, because we don't have that law for our brick and mortar. It's discrimination. You cannot do it, and it's stupid to do it because you can't do it in Eureka. Right across the street, we have 5 food places in one little block. You cannot say 100 feet. We'll never have trucks anywhere downtown, which is supposed to be where they were supposed to be set up. Per our discussion I started a year and a half ago.
That's without permission notice, noted on that. And
What's
it's not
without
discrimination. Other ordinances,
No
other
permission.
cities have that.
It's discrimination.
James?
We don't have it for our brick and mortar.
I
We
would
can't do it
just-
for these.
Then at this point, I would move to put this on the agenda for our next council meeting.
I think we need a workshop first in the meantime.
I'll be fine with a workshop. Obviously, this is a contentious item.
Good.
It's up to y'all. A workshop, council meeting.
Both. Workshop and then finalize it at council.
Okay. Is that fine having a workshop on this? Christie?
Well, I just have a question of our legal counsel. Do you find it concerning that city council would be the party who would determine whether a food truck operation or property owner is operating in violation of a city, county, or city law or regulation, rather than going through the usual judicial?
That is the usual judicial way
It
of
is?
doing it.
Okay.
The council is the first step. You might include a way for it to be appealed from there to an actual court. But if you're revoking a city permit, it would be
Okay.
through the council first.
Okay.
Probably should have a circuit court appeal note on there, similar to what the planning commission is.
Yes.
Okay.
David?
Before we get to the workshop and all, did you read this, city attorney?
I wrote part of it. I've
Okay.
read all
So
of
you
it.
obviously read it. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. Just wanted to be sure we were ready to hit it.
Okay. Any other comments? I'll get Kim to poll everybody and set up a workshop on that then. Is that all right? Yep. Okay. That's it. Agenda setting. Anybody got anything for next time? David?
Would it be possible, since we're getting close to the end of the year, to hear from the chairperson of each of the commission or committees that are listed above what they felt were their accomplishments in 2016 and where they were heading in 2017, just to update council?
You want to schedule it over the next month or so?
Yes, so
next
just
2 or 3
something
months,
casual, but
2 or 3
don't
meetings,
send a
rather?
written report. Actually, just stop by briefly and just give us an
Okay.
off-the-cuff update.
I
Nothing.
mean, we got something from the cemetery that's in your packet,
Okay.
I think.
Well, we even have a cemetery person here that could add to it if he so
Okay.
chooses.
Well, you got a quarterly in the, is it in the packet?
No,
No,
I-
all right, we got a quarterly, I hadn't sent it to you yet, but we got a cemetery one.
And could we also add the building inspector to that list of commissions so he can update us on the
Sure.
dilapidated buildings or the demolition by neglect?
Yeah,
Thank you.
all right. Did I see somebody, James?
Yeah, I would just like to know the status of the prohibition on smoking in city parks.
Okay. Bring that up on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Do we have a second?
You give a second?
Second.
Okay.
And who is the second for David?
David, we didn't get a second
Oh,
on
second.
yours. Mickey. All right, city council comments. Bob?
None at this time.
Terry?
No.
Is that a no?
A no is a no, yes.
No is a no. Is a no. All right. James?
No comment.
David?
I hear whoever was playing this weekend in the park did a great job. I think people were a little surprised they stopped at 6, but other than that, I heard great things about it, including from the guests. The Corvettes looked absolutely great in town. So that was it.
Mickey?
My bumper sticker car has been replaced with a vehicle that is so white, it's blinding. Please, 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 I need appropriate donations of bumper stickers, anything to cover that thing. Appropriate means only Trump if it's got a target on there. Thank you.
Christie?
I just would like to point out that I think that there's been some misunderstanding about what my proposal to City Council was about the green zone parks, and that I have posted my proposal online on my website, which is christieforcouncil.com. That's KRISTI, the numeral 4, council.com. So please, if you're interested in what my proposal provides, please go there.
We can go ahead and post that on the city council, on the city website too.
Okay.
So
I can
anybody that's
send you-
interested will get that on the city website. So, is that it?
That's it.
We've got quite a few upcoming events coming in this next couple of weeks. This weekend is going to be one of our bigger weekends of the year. We've got the Folk Festival concert still on the hill. Going to be playing on the 13th at the 7 o'clock in the Odd. And they are a great folk music, literally folk music. They're just incredible musicians on there. And on the 14th and 15th, we're going to have a folk art fair in the Basin Park that's going to be going on all afternoon. And that same day, starting at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a free-for-all party with a local named, unnamed hot rockabilly band. That's going to be a great concert down there. And that's going to start at 7 p.m. in the Basin Park. And then on the 15th, all afternoon, down in the Basin Park again, we're going to have a lot of bluegrass and folk music players down there. Connie Dover and Kelly Wirtz, Downhill Strugglers, the Hoodos, and it's going to be a great fun. A lot of great music there. And also on that same day, the 15th, will be Oktoberfest from 9 in the morning to 5 down on Center Street. We're moving it from this parking lot so up to Center Street. So we're going to have a lot of activities going on up there. And then that evening, we're going to have the Elders and the Vote Sisters at 7 p.m. in the Odd. If you haven't heard the Elders, they're a great group. It's a Celtic folk music and just outstanding. We're really excited. I'm really excited to hear them. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, tickets are available on theodd.org.
Also at the door.
And also at the door. And I think, what is it, $25? It's not. It's very reasonable. So it's a great concert, great music. And then the following weekend, the 22nd and 23rd, we're going to have the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. That's going to be all day out at Leatherwood Park. Let's spit it out, Butch. And then again, one of my favorite events, the weekend of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, Voices from Eureka Silent City out at the cemetery, beginning at 5 p.m. You can park. There'll be parking out at the, I'm going to say the old Ramada, the old hotel, and then they'll shuttle you to the cemetery. And this is always a great event. It's just if you have never been, please make a time to go out there. And then along that same lines, the 21st and 22nd, Anna is going to be performing at the Mellon Light Theater. And again, that's another great theater production that the Mellon Light people are doing. And then on the 21st, we have Outback in the Ozarks, which is a long endurance race. It's going to be all morning out at Leatherwood and through the town. And then on the 21st, we're going to have the Mini Cooper Parade starting at 4 p.m. down in the Upper Loop. So we're going to have a lot of activities coming up this coming weekend.
Isn't that also War Eagle weekend?
And War Eagle weekend is this coming weekend. So,
This coming one, not the 22nd.
No, this coming one.
No, we're going to have Oktoberfest, the Folk Festival, and War Eagle all combined, and it's going to show how bad we need parking and a parking deck. We could probably handle 3 times the people for sure out there. A couple other little things going on before we close. I wanted to let the council know our budget freeze that we instigated back in April. So far, we did this because of a cash flow, and I've got to compliment all of the department heads. They've done a great job of watching their money and everything. So far, we're 29% decrease in overall expenditures, which amounts to about $98,000. So they've done a great job of watching their monies, and eventually it's going to probably catch up with us. A lot of it's deferred maintenance and items like that, but they really have watched where they're buying stuff and everything on that. So they're to be congratulated. And then also, because of, we mentioned the Corvette weekend, we received a plaque from the Eureka Springs, the Corvette clubs, giving us thanking us for having their 26th annual Corvette group here in Eureka Springs, which is pretty amazing. I had to go out of town, but on the way back, and I was down in Oklahoma, it was amazing how many Corvettes I saw going south. So I know we have, I want to say around 600 to 900 Corvettes in town over the weekend. So they did a great job, and thank everybody, all the restaurants and lodging people, because I know y'all did a great job for them. I spoke with them briefly yesterday, and they thanked us for having perfect weather for them. And I said we ordered it up strict for them, and so they said they'll see us again next year. So that's all I have.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.